Hello, my dear students. I hope you all are fine. So, let us continue with our next topics in our networking concepts chapter, that is the cookies. So, before I start with the explanation of cookies, I would like just to quote an example where we can see these cookies. Cookies, today, maybe, example, today you have browsed one of the online shopping cart. Think maybe Flipkart or Myntra or any different kinds of online cart you have browsed it, and you have seen for certain accessories or mobile handset or any kind of clothing you have seen it, and you have put certain items in your cart. Okay, after some time you have logged it. Okay, maybe having a gap of 2 hours or 1 hour whatsoever. So later once again you will come and you will start browsing for some other data, maybe by using some other website. You are into some other website over the internet. You may experience that certain ads you will be able to see on the current website of previous website. You can see previous shopping cart, whatever items you have put it in the cart, those ads you may see it in the presently working website. It may show certain price drop and all those messages you can see. Such kinds of messages are nothing but they are called as the cookies. Or sometime you may also experience that do you want to save your password for this website. If you give it as a save, okay, if you give it as a save, then your password for that website will be saved in your web browser by the help of cookies. So cookies are nothing but they are the messages or the text files that a web server will be storing on your web browser itself. Okay, on the user's hard disk it will store, and these cookies allows a website to store the information such as the sites which are frequently visited, or the credential for accessing those websites on the user's machine, and use it later to retrieve the website. Suppose for example you may experience that if you are a frequent user of Facebook or Gmail or YouTube and all, you see that today you have browsed it a lot, today or tomorrow for some days. So maybe third or fourth day you can see that small icons of those websites are already created on your web browser. Then who is actually observing this? Who is actually keeping track of all your data, which are the frequently used website and all? Who is helping you for easy access of those websites? Instead of going and every time typing www.facebook.com in the URL, you just click on that icon. It will help you to connect that login page of Facebook. So such kinds of text messages are nothing but the cookies. Cookies are actually storing the information, okay, on your user's hard disk, that is in the user's browser, whichever you are using. Therefore we can call it as cookies are the messages that the web server will actually transmit, okay, to a web browser, so that a web server can keep track of the user's activity on a specific website. So web server will usually see to that n number of internet users are there, all the n number of internet users activity it will keep track. If this IP address, which are the frequently used website they are, what kind of information they are searching for, all those will be stored in a data stored in the form of cookies in your web browser itself. See here, you can see it will ask you a message whenever, if you are a new user of internet, they will ask you, we are using cookies on your website. If you say for decline, no information will be stored on your web browser. If you accept it, all those previously whatever or frequently used visited website, all that information will be stored in cookies form, and it will help you for easy access. Okay, easy access it will be helping for. So all this is about the cookies. Okay, now let us move on to the next topic in our networking concepts, that is about the hackers and the crackers. I hope most of them are interested in hacking others' computer system, but before that you should know what exactly the difference between the hackers and the crackers. Who are the hackers and the who are actually the crackers? Who are the malicious programmers or the bad programmers, and who are the good programmers? You should be able to know. So hackers are called as the white hat hackers, okay, and these are the more interested in gaining the knowledge about the computer system and possibly use this knowledge for the playful pranks. That means these hackers are also called as the white hat hackers, or they may also called as the ethical hackers. Okay, usually people think hackers are the bad people who will hack their system for the bad intention, but actually there are certain people who will have their jobs as the professional hackers called as the ethical hackers, who are being hired by the companies itself, IT companies itself, to in order to test and repair their security system by hacking them. Usually IT company, what is this network security I'm talking about is nothing but, if you're running in any organization or something, you make sure that your network is a security enabled. Why? Because there might be physical loopholes, security loopholes, inconsistent usage loopholes, which we have already discussed in our previous topics. In order to maintain security for your data which you have stored in the database server, you need a security, network security. Okay, so there are certain hackers who are being actually called as the professional hackers. They will be hacked by the IT companies itself. They will call and they'll ask them to hack their company. They will not give their password. You try and see whether our company's computer systems can be hacked or no, whether our company's security is completely secured one or no. You test and see. They will ask for the hackers. So hackers, they may hack the system and they will inform the owners what are the loopholes, how the different crackers may come and hack, how they may use your data maliciously. Okay, all the whatever the loopholes that network security is having, they will inform the owners. So many people hack their own computer system or get the permission to hack some other computer system in order to gain more knowledge regarding the security of their website, and sometimes they even inform the owner what are the loopholes in the website which can be hacked by someone else. Hence, whatever the activities may be performed by the hackers may be considered as the legal ones. It also depending upon their intentions. Okay, then again we have someone known as the crackers. They are being called as the malicious programmers or the bad hat hackers. So crackers are usually called as the malicious hackers, or they may also called as the black hat hackers. These are the malicious programmers who actually break into network security system, and they have same skills as that of the hackers have. Okay, but they may use the data maliciously once they break into network security, such as they can send the virus codes. Okay, virus is nothing but that is a small program. It's a program, badly written program. Okay, and they may steal the personal information of any of the users. Okay, thus the activities of mostly which are being done by the crackers are being considered to be as the illegal. Actually, these are the persons who actually have the bad intention in order to provide certain harm to any other users over the network security. But actually it's not the hackers. So most of the people has a misconception that hacking means they have the bad intention, they do illegal activities. No, hackers are actually the professional hackers. They can also be called as the white hat hackers. Okay, whatever activity will be done by the hackers will be in the form of legal. Okay, and the crackers are actually called as malicious programmer. Malicious means badly. Okay, malicious programmers, they can also be called as the black hat hackers. They have the same skills. Okay, they both will hack the network security. Network security is what they may both hack the company's network. Okay, they may hack any other company's computer system, but they will inform the company owners what are the loopholes in their network. But here are the crackers, they will use those informations for their own purpose. Okay, and whatever the activities may be performed by the crackers may be illegal. Okay, so this was all about the hackers and the crackers. Now let us move on to our next topic, that is the cyber law. Cyber law is actually a generic term which actually refers to all the laws and the legal and regulatory aspects of the internet and the WWW. So cyber law is a generic term, it's a general term which will actually have all the legal and regulatory aspects of internet which has been drafted in the cyber law. Like suppose for example, like if any fraud happens, okay, if any fraud happens in the e-commerce or the online transaction during, so what are the legal aspects, what are the actions to be taken against such kinds of frauds, all the those aspects are being drafted in a law known as the cyber law. This cyber law actually keeps an eye on all the activities over the internet, like how the people are using the internet for, like whether for genuine purpose they are using, or any to carry out any illegal activities they are using. All such will be observed by a law known as the cyber law. In that, all the laws, rules and regulatory aspects are being drafted in it. So it actually includes the laws regarding the information technology, that is IT, as well as it also includes the information about the computers and the usage of the internet. Okay, and it also includes informatics, and also supervises the information security and e-commerce. E-commerce is very much important, because every now and then we hear that online transaction fraud took place. There was ransom amount was being transferred from one account to the another without having the owner's knowledge. All such kinds of frauds, what action should be taken against them, such rules and regulatory laws are being included in a law known as the cyber law. So now let us move on to our next topic, that is India's IT Act. So this India's IT Act actually stands for Information Technology Act. Okay, so in India the cyber laws are actually contained in the Information Technology Act 2000, which was actually come into existence or notified on 17th October 2000. It was actually based upon the United Nations Commission for International Trade related laws model law. Actually, so this United Nations Commission for International Trade related laws, they actually drafted a laws against against the crime or the fraud which may take over the internet. Then they suggested for India also, in order to adopt such kinds of laws, so that it can tackle with any kinds of the fraudulent cases in the future, whenever the people are using the internet for the any kinds of online transaction it might be, or having an e-commerce. E-commerce is nothing but buying and selling the goods online, or purchasing or any other services over the internet should be carried out. Then India had adopted it on 17th October 2000. Okay, so actually this IT Act aims to provide the legal infrastructure for the e-commerce. Whatever if you're making a payment through Phone Pay, or if you're making a payment through the Google Pay, who is providing you the security? How the people, they are not able, how they are recognizing that yes, you have made a payment? They are all providing all the legal infrastructure to such kinds of online transaction. That is nothing but e-commerce in India. Okay, by governing, plus they will governing the transactions through the internet and any other electronic medium, through whatever other mediums you make the payment. This India's IT Act is helping, it is recognizing it, and then it is governing by providing the transactions to carried out over the online or the based upon the e-commerce. Okay, so this is all about the India's IT Act. Let us move on to our next topic, that is the virus. Virus actually stands for Vital Information Resource Under Siege. So we all know a little bit about the how computer virus actually affect our system. So this computer virus is a malicious program that actually requires a host, and it is usually designed to make the computer system sick. So from your exam point of view, the abbreviation of the virus and the definition of the virus is very, very important. So please make a note of it. And then this computer virus is a malicious program, means it's a badly written program that actually requires a host. That means it requires a computer system in order to spread from one system to another system. Okay, the computer system to another system, it can spread only when the two computer systems are capable of having communication or capable of exchanging the information. Until and unless it is being connected to some other computer system, virus cannot independently spread from one system to another system. Okay, and this kinds of virus, usually it is designed to make the system sick, in the sense you may come under the situation that your computer system may be restarting again and again. Okay, or you may see to that a same file is being created with its replicas. So all such kinds of situations makes you feel that there is a presence of virus into your computer system. So these certain viruses may be harmful and certain viruses may not be harmful. So usually viruses are being broadly classified into the 4 different types. The first one is about the file infector, second is the boot sector viruses, third is the macro viruses, and the fourth one is the network viruses. So let us see about about what exactly the file infectors are. These file infectors, usually they will target the or infect the executable files like .exe files or .com files, that means commercial files. They will try to attach themselves to such kinds of program files, and they will start creating the replicas of it or start creating the duplicate files of the same file. So usually they will search for the .exe file, that is executable files. Okay, I'll just give an example. Like whenever you try to download any of the software over from the internet, if you are downloading, usually software in the sense they will always be in the form of .exe file. If there is a file infector virus presence over the internet, that kind of badly written program or that file infector virus will get attached to your .exe file. So as and when you download the software, at the same time virus also will get downloaded from the over the internet, and then it will get installed along with that particular software. So maybe immediately you may not see the results of virus. After some time or after a day or something, you may start seeing the same replicas of the same files, like 2 to 3 replicas. Though you have not created, you are able to see certain replicas of that files, and that such kinds of virus I usually call it as the file infectors virus. Now let us move on to the next one, is the boot sector virus. Before I start with this boot sector virus, what is the booting process? Booting process is nothing but it is a process of starting a computer system. Whenever you on the power supply, main switch, whenever you on your power supply of your computer system, what exactly happens is, in your hard disk, okay, in your computer's hard disk, okay, there will be an operating system. In the starting tracks of that hard disk, usually there is a instructions for the operating system. That operating system will try to get loaded into your computer memory. Once the operating system is loaded in computer memory, then your computer system will get on completely. Now this process is nothing but the booting. Okay, so this boot sector, if boot sector virus, if it is there, it will try to install themselves in the beginning tracks of the hard drive or the master boot record. So if at all this kind of boot sector virus, if it is present, actually operating system is there in the starting address of your hard drive, this new virus will come and it will try to install in the starting drive of your hard disk drive. Okay, starting track of your hard disk drive, it will try to install itself. And then whenever you load your operating system, that means whenever you on your computer systems, okay, to start for that starting process, even along with that operating system, even the virus will get loaded into your computer memory. As number of times you on your system, at the same time as the operating is loaded, even the virus will get loaded into your computer memory. Or it may simply change the pointer to the active boot sector, in the sense, maybe you're working for 15 minutes, suddenly if the boot sector virus is present, it will change the pointer and it will again take back to the booting process only. It will change the pointer to the active boot sector, means once again the operating system will start loading. That means you may undergo for the restarting of your computer system. You may not restart it manually, but in the sense automatically it will go for the restarting. So such kinds of viruses are nothing but the boot sector viruses, where they will install themselves in the beginning tracks of your hard drive, or you can also call it as the master boot record. Boot sector is nothing but it is the first sector in your computer hard disk which contains the instructions to automatically load your operating system into your memory. Once the operating system is loaded into your computer memory, then only your computer will actually start. Okay, next moving on to the macro virus. Macro viruses, these kinds of viruses, they will attach themselves to the applications such as Microsoft Office suite. Like they will get attached to the Microsoft products like Excel files, that is Microsoft electronic spreadsheet, or Microsoft PowerPoint, or Microsoft Word, or any kind of MS database of several software packages. Usually they will attach themselves with the MS Office suite packages, where they will start creating the replicas of the same thing. One example I can say you that if you have created a Word document today, okay, if a macro virus is there in your computer system for today, by end of the day or tomorrow, you just see one more same copy of the file will be created with a blur image. Then That is nothing but the microviruses. Moving on to the next viruses, that is the network virus. So these viruses use the protocols and the commands of computer network in order to spread themselves onto the network. Usually these will come along with the protocols itself, like file transfer protocol. Whenever you are downloading anything from your computer system, if at all there is a presence of network viruses, then it will get downloaded along with your video, audio, or whatsoever you're downloading. Or it may also be in along with the SMT, that is SMTP protocol, that is simple mail transfer protocol. They will get generally they use the email or any kind of data transfer file to spread themselves over the internet. Maybe you have your friend, maybe someone has sent you the mail. If their computer system is having the network viruses, or while transferring the data, if network virus is present over the internet, they will get attached to your email, and then it will come to your inbox. And if you, without scanning, if you try to download that image or whatsoever attachment is there, then along with that attachment, even the network virus also get installed into your computer system. So this were the different types of the viruses. Students, I hope all the topics are clear to you. Watch the video properly, solve the assignment. With further more topics we will discuss in the next video. Take care of yourself. Thank you.